Ooh. Did we watch the Don't Be a Sucker? Did we watch the anti-fascist propaganda videos from 1947? Did we ever do that? This could be some fun reacts. I don't think so. So chat, this is a video produced in the 1940s. It says 1947, but it's basically to spot fascists. But we can react to that. This could be some fun content. But yeah. So chat, I'm gonna start playing this, and I'm gonna post the link.
Train with $200. He couldn't see any harm in a friendly game of cards. What if the other men were strangers? And take Joe Collins. He's got a nice wife at home. But he met this girl at the bar, and she looked after the first couple of drinks. There's a good old-fashioned word for people like this. We call them suckers. And there are other people. People who stay up nights figuring out how to take away what they've got. There are all kinds of games. Mike here, for instance. He's got everything in him. He's young, he's healthy, got a job. And he's got plenty of food. Big factories to make things a man can use. Big cities to do the business of a big company. And people. Lots of people. Enough to work the farm and build the factories, dig the mines, and run the business. All kinds of people. People from different countries with different religions, different colored skins. Free people. They can live together and work together and build America together because they're free. Free to vote, to say what they please, go to their own churches, to pick their own jobs. Yeah, Mike's got something, all right. He's got America.
America! Yeah! Freedom of speech, and I can do what I want.
But there are guys who stay up nights figuring out how to take that away from him.
I happen to know the facts. Now, friends, I'm just an average American. But I'm an American. And some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil. I see people with foreign money. I see Negroes holding jobs that belong to me and you. Now, I ask you, if we allow this thing to go on, what's going to become of us real Americans?
I've heard this kind of talk before, but I never expected to hear it in America.
Bro, what do you mean you never expected to be America? There was literally a Nazi party that held a rally in Madison Square Garden. Annoying. I hate that they like claim that this shit never happened in America. Like, no, this shit did happen in America. Fascism was on the fucking rise. And then Americans stood up to fascism and voted FDR in to prevent fascism from gaining power.
Well, I seem to know what he's talking about.
What are we real Americans going to do about it? You'll find it right here in this little pamphlet. The truth about Negroes and foreigners. The truth about the Catholic Church.
Do you believe in that kind of talk?
I don't know, makes pretty good sense to me.
And I tell you, friends, we'll never be able to call this country our own until it's a country without.
Sure this wasn't last week? Did I react to this last week? No, I mean the guy saying there are Negroes holding jobs that belong to me. Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, this still happens. Chat, I can't wait to do a video about conservatives. All they conserve is talking points. Because, like, they've had the same talking point decades, if not centuries.
Without what? Yeah, without what? Without Negroes. Without alien foreigners. Without Catholics. Without Freemasons. You know these things.
What's wrong with the Masons? I'm a Mason. Hey, that fellow's talking about me.
And that makes a difference, doesn't it?
These are your...
Hey-o, chat. Everybody remember the poem? First they came for the communists, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a socialist. And then they came for the Jews, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was nobody left to stand up for me. I probably butchered the reading, but same concept.
Enemies, these are the people who are trying to take over our country. Now you know them, you know what they stand for, and it's up to you and me to fight them. Fight them and destroy them before they destroy us.
Does this sound familiar to you, chap? Does this rhetoric that you are hearing from this gentleman here, does this sound familiar to you?
Thank you.
Before he said Masons, you were ready to agree with him.
Well, yes, but he was talking about... What about those other people?
But in this country, we have no other people. We are American people.
What about you? You aren't American, are you?
I was born in Hungary, but now I am an American citizen. And I have seen what this kind of talk can do. I saw it in Berlin.
What were you doing there?
I was a professor at the university. I heard the same words we have heard today. But I was a fool then. I thought Nazis were crazy people, stupid fanatics. But unfortunately, it was not.
Does this sound familiar, chap? Liberals being like, oh, no, that's the crazy one. No, it's the mainstream narrative. Mainstream fucking party. This is what happens. What happens when you allow fascism to take hold, when you don't take care of people's conditions. People become reactionary, and they look for scapegoats, and they turn towards minorities, and eventually down the line to Jewish people, because it always has and always will lead to conspiracies of Jewish people. It's fucked up. It's the same over and over and over again. And with the modern version of this bullshit that we have to deal with, it all involves those in power continuing to make a buck. So that's why they absolutely despise communists and socialists, because communists and socialists are literally advocating for bettering conditions of working class people, which the fascists need. The fascists need working class people who feel like they have been isolated and marginalized and forgotten about. If you don't take care of the working class people could lead down a road to reactionary politics, which then leads to radicalization in the wrong direction, where that leads fascism to rise and genocide.
So, you see, they knew that they were not strong enough to conquer a unified country. So they split Germany into small groups. They used prejudice as a practical weapon to cripple the nation. Of course, that was...
I've watched this video a bunch of times, so I guess you could argue that I pre-watched it.
Not easy to do. They had to work hard to do it. You see, we human beings are not born with prejudices. Always they are made for us, made by someone who wants something. Remember that when you hear this kind of talk. Somebody is going to get something out of it, and it isn't going to be you.
Yep. It's usually the wealthy and powerful, which is why the wealthy and powerful were trying to overthrow FDR and stage a coup and remove him from power and install a military dictatorship, so that the wealthy business people of the time can continue to exploit the labor that they had exploited for decades, leading up to the Great Depression. FDR was creating policies to prevent that from happening and prevent fascism from rising. All capitalists and capital owners will rather prefer fascism over anything involving a democratized workplace and ensuring that working class people get the value that they create.
This is not classroom theory. I saw it happen. I saw it first in Berlin in 1932. 5 young men that I knew were standing in the crowd listening to the Nazi speaker. Eric was a Catholic. Anton, a student of mine, was a Jew. Heinrich owned a small hardware store. Karl was a farmer. And Hans was an unemployed metal worker.
To all Bavarian Germans, I say it is time you inherited the nation which rightfully belongs to you. To you alone belongs the glorious destiny of the greater Germany. The Nazi Party will provide land for the farmer, work for the worker, and profits for the small businessman. Who is getting these things now? The Jew. The Jew who has stolen our nation and our birthright. Who makes all the money and takes all our jobs? The Jew! He must be shunned. He must be ostracized. He must be eliminated. And the Catholics. We don't want our great nation run by a foreign church. We Germans will know what to do with these people when the time comes. They and their faith must be destroyed. Then there are the Freemasons. In Germany, we have no place for secret societies. There will be only one society, and that is the Nazi Party. There will be no secrecy about that in the new greater Germany.
One by one, he attacked each minority and he split them off one from the other. These men were all fellow Germans when they came here today. Now they were split into rival groups, suspicious of each other, hating each other.
That I've said this on stream before, but this is also what capitalists do. They divide the working class amongst themselves, sure that they're not united together. Because once working class people are united together, they hold all of the power. They hold all of the cards. So that's why fascist talking points, fascist rhetoric, also capitalist rhetoric, where they speak ill of working class people, labor unions, and people that are working together get what they have, the value that they have created. This is why it's important to understand history, because you see over and over and over again that this rhetoric continues to repeat itself. The division of working class people is what leads to oppression and widespread oppression. Then could potentially lead. Important to be educated on this stuff and understand what's going on when you hear this dangerous rhetoric.
They were being swindled, all of them. But the man who was really being fooled was Hans. He was pure German, according to Nazi standards. To him they promised everything, and he fell for it. That's how Hans became a Superman. They gave him a uniform and they pumped up his ego. He wasn't just a little fellow out of work anymore. He was a member of the master race. Hans and thousands of others like him.
This master race bullshit it doesn't make any sense. Like, we've gone over this through the Civil War and World War II. It's funny how the master races, you get their ass fucking handed to them in warfare over and over and over again. On top of that, the so-called master race got destroyed in the Berlin Olympics in 1936. Jesse Owens won a gold medal as a black man in Nazi fucking Germany, and Hitler was furious. That's a fun one I'd like to do a video on.
All playing a sucker's game. They gambled with other people's liberty, and of course they lost their own. A nation of suckers. Hitler needed these people. There was lots of work to be done. There were trade unions to be smashed, because unions were organized and might offer resistance. There were many political parties in Germany. These the Nazis destroyed. They were determined to smash every organization where people might band together and resist them. There were Jews to be beaten and killed. The Jews were not powerful, but they were a convenient excuse for all the nation's ills. And besides, a Nazi party member could not take over this man's store. Hundreds of Catholics were put in jail because the Catholic Church had strength and could resist the Nazi drive for power. They had split the nation into 100 pieces.
I knew neo-Nazis hated Catholics. I didn't realize it was that bad. So I didn't realize Nazi Germany hated Catholics. I know Nazi Germany heavily relied on religion for their talking points and everything, but I guess I kind of assumed, mainly because I'm Catholic my whole life, so I always thought Catholicism was like the main Christian religion. But obviously I found out that it was Protestantism. And they're literally ones that are our white Anglo-Saxon Protestant wasp refer to them.
And then one by one, they had destroyed the pieces. Over these broken pieces, the Nazis rode into power. One party, one nation, one religion. These men had won their struggle for power. They now ruled all of Germany. But still they had trouble with their oldest and most persistent enemy, the truth. They found that truth does not die easily. And so they decided to abolish truth. One great source of truth is literature. So they burned books. 20 million of them.
Also, the first books that the Nazis burned were basically medical journals of transgenderism. And I don't even think that's the right term. But we lost a lot of literature on medical needs of transgender people and everything like that because the Nazis burned them.
Many great men in Germany who were spokesmen for truth were jailed or driven from their country. Teachers, writers, scientists. Education was discouraged. In 5 years, college attendance dropped 53%. It was forbidden to listen to a British radio program or read an American newspaper. In Nazi Germany, you had to get...
To be fair, American newspapers aren't very fucking educational. I mean, the New York Times wrote a glowing piece of Adolf Hitler. Literally released a piece recently talking about how it's actually okay to be a neo-Nazi and we should actually listen to and white supremacists. What the fuck are you doing?
Get your information from Dr. Goebbels. He knew what was best for you. The church was one force in Germany still strong enough to proclaim the truth in public. This Catholic priest was arrested the following day on charges of immorality. The Protestant church...
Whoa. You're telling me that the fascists were speaking against certain things on the grounds that it's immoral? With absolutely no basis for it? Huh. Who says shit like that nowadays?
Church also continued to try and fight for truth. The Nazis put this man in a concentration camp. There were others who spoke for truth, and I am proud to say that educators were among them.
And what, may I ask, is an Aryan? I don't know myself. But let us see what our present so-called authorities have to say about it. They say he is tall, slender, blue-eyed.
Oh my god, they're trolling Nazis. I love it. Oh, this is like all the white supremacists claiming that they're superior to all races, and you look at them and they're like 80-pound sausages in a 20-pound bag, and they're just fat, out of shape, and just dumb as
And blonde. There is no Aryan race. And more important, there is no master race. There are people who may find these ideas convenient, but science cannot support them. There is no scientific proof that there's any correlation between a man's racial characteristics and his native ability or character. In all racial groups, we find the same range of potentialities. We find idiots and geniuses. We find criminals and philanthropists. We must judge each man.
And sometimes philanthropists that are criminals, which is basically every billionaire because of wage. But anyway.
As an individual, and not by the color of his skin, or his eyes, or by the length of his nose. Come in, gentlemen. It's comfortable. And remember that there is no master race. That is a scientific truth. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying.
And so, for all practical purposes, truth had been abolished in Germany. A lot of my German friends wondered what had hit them. How did it happen? Where did it start? It started right here. And this was where it could have been stopped. If those people had stood together, if they had protected each other, they could have resisted the Nazi threat. Together they would have been strong. But once they...
Exactly, chat. This is why we need to unite together and tell these fucking pieces of shit to go fucking home and make fun of them. I don't believe that we should isolate people, but these people need to be put in their place. They need to be shit on constantly. They need to be seen as a pariah because these people do not have good intentions. And the hilarity about these people will not benefit of a society that they call for. These people that say shit like this will not see the benefits of it. So they're literally doing it for free. Don't be advocating for people above you for free. Don't be a bootlicker, chat. Just don't do it. Don't be a bootlicker.
They allowed themselves to be split apart. They were helpless. When that first minority lost out, everybody lost out. They made the mistake of gambling with other people's freedom. Now let's see how those bets paid off. Karl the farmer was gambling on a better life for himself. What he got was extra hours of back-breaking work, as much as 100 hours a week. He was forced to stay on his land and produce what he was told to produce, because now Hitler was preparing for war. For Heinrich, who owned a hardware store, the bet didn't pay off either. 104,000 small businesses were closed in 2 years. And for Hans, conditions hadn't improved any. He had a job now in the munitions factory, but he worked long hours for little pay. The working conditions grew increasingly bad. And even though he didn't like the job, he wasn't permitted to leave it. And when Hitler decided the time was right, Germany went to war. Not by declaring war, but by a carefully prepared sneak attack. Once again, Hitler needed Hans to do his dirty work. Hans was an expert at brutality this time, and Hitler had decided to use Hans and his brutality against other peoples, the Czechs, the Poles, the French, the Russians. But in the crucial test of war, Hitler's race theories didn't pay off. His pure-blooded
Rewatch.
Supermen were defeated by the mongrel armies he despised, by the British at El Alamein, by the Russians at Stalingrad.
That's so crazy that the British fought in shorts. Hey, they got to show off the quads. They got to show off the quads and show off those calves.
Then on D-Day by American soldiers of every color and religion, who smashed across the Normandy beaches and drove on through to the heart of Germany.
All right, this is a little history. The Russians were the one that pushed back the Germans all the way back to the capital. and then the United States got there after the Russians. The Russians were the one that isolated Hitler, and Hitler, ended up doing his thing.
For the misguided Germans who had swallowed the Nazi bait, the Nazi game did not pay off. The continent of Europe was strewn with millions of German bodies, pure Aryan bodies. And Hans, who was going to rule the world, got only a little patch of Normandy that he could call his own. We must never let that happen to us or to our country. We must never let ourselves be divided by race or color or religion, because in this country we all belong to minority groups. I was born in Hungary. You are a Mason. These are minorities. And then you belong to other minority groups too. You are a farmer. You have blue eyes. You go to the Methodist Church. Your right to belong to these minorities is a precious thing. You have a right to be what you are and say what you think, because here we have personal freedom. We have liberty. And these are not just fancy words. This is a practical and priceless way of living. But we must work at it. We must guard everyone's liberty, or we can lose our own. If we allow any minority to lose its freedom by persecution or by prejudice, we are threatening our own freedom. And this is not simply an idea.
This guy's pretty based. He's got some cool ideas.
This is good, hard common sense. You see, here in America is not a question whether we tolerate minorities. America is minorities. And that means you and me. So let's not be suckers. We must not allow the freedom or dignity of any man to be threatened by any act or word. Let's be selfish about it. Let's forget about we and they. Let's think about us.
That was pretty good, chat. That was pretty good. I feel like I need to watch that video more often, because it's pretty hilarious how conservative talking points are absolutely identical to current to those talking points of the time.